So now in the following, we're going to test this code. So if A is smaller than B and B is smaller than C, we're going to print out A is the smallest and A is not the smallest number if that wasn't true. So let's run this and run python 3 if that's pi. So as you can see, A is not the smallest number. So what we had here, A was 5.5, B was 5, C was 6, so A was between B and C. So A is not the smallest number. So now we're going to do this for OR. So we're going to use OR instead of and we're going to check for something else. So now we can write A if A is greater than B or A is greater than C. Here we can write something very much different. As you can see, A is greater than B is opposite to A is smaller than B, and everything inside of this statement is totally opposite to this one. So as a result, the print here will also be opposite. So the second print in here will be the first print. So we'll copy and paste this print right here. And if you look at the logic, you will also understand it. If A is not greater than B and also if A is greater than B or greater than C, as a result, we can be sure that if any one of these two are true, if A is greater than any one of them, then A is not the smallest. So that's very much obvious. And for the else, we can say and print exactly the opposite. So we can write the one here. As a result, this statement right here is complementary to this one and totally opposite to that. So as a result, the two prints will change their own places. So if I save the code and rerun it, you will see exactly the same result. For both of them, it says A is not the smallest number. So no matter here you use and or here, you can use both of this in a completely different way, but the result will show the same thing. As a result, you can use or and. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the result. So if your result is true, then it works very well, and it won't make a difference if you use and or you use or. Okay, so in the next part we're going to talk about the nested loops, actually the nested if. So we want to see if something happened, then we should do something else. And you can say that it is nearly the same as using and, but sometimes we want to do something if one of them is true and then do another thing if both of them are true. So for example, if A is greater than B, you want to say that I can print here A is greater than B, and then you want to use another if and say if A is greater than, or for example, you want to say if B is greater than C, print A is the greatest number. And then if that does not hold, you can say but a is not the greatest number. So here, as you can see, we've checked if a is greater than b, and then we have printed out a is greater than b, and if b is greater than c, as a result a will be the greatest number, so we've printed out it is the greatest number. And if that didn't hold, we will see that a is greater than b, but we can say it is not the greatest number, but it is not the greatest number. So let's save the code and see how this nested if works. As you can see, a is greater than b, but it is not the greatest number. And if you check the numbers, you will see that a is 5.5, b is 5. So a is greater than b, but it is not the greatest number because c is 6. So as a result, this kind of nested loop is a bit different than using AND here. So for example, I can write something else equal to this one, and here we will not be able to see if a is greater than b, because if we use both of the conditions together, we will only be able to see if a is the greatest number or if it is not, and we cannot see if a is greater than b or smaller than b. So this way of using the nested if is a bit different. So let me write another form of it so that you can better understand. And so here, if a is greater than b and a is greater and b is greater than c, here we can say it can print the very same line that we've printed out here. So let me copy it to be a bit more quick, and also this else right here, copy and paste it here. So let's also fix the indentation, save the code, and also don't forget to close the apostrophe and the parentheses. So as you can see, this one also says that it is not the greatest number, but here instead of it I can write a is not the greatest number. So the second one says that a is not the greatest number, but it does not say whether a is greater than b or not. So as a result, the nested if can make things much more detailed, so you can write your own codes in much more detail and have a greater care about the details of the conditions. So there's also a very shorter form of writing if. So if you didn't think that we can write an if statement inside one line, then here I can tell you that it is possible. So for example, you can write print a, actually inside quotation marks, so we can say a is greater than b, and outside of it we can say if a is greater than b, and else here you can print out. So if that didn't happen, we can write else for that, and a is or b is greater than b. So let's save the code and rerun it. As you can see, it says a is greater than b. So this line works, and it is like a 4-line if statement. So let's check here. As you can see, we've written an if statement in 4 lines here, but instead of that we can just make it a one-line if statement, just like this. Also, there is something else to mention if you're writing an if statement and you have a condition here like A is, for example, greater than B, but you're not sure what you're going to do if that happens. So here I can write pass, and then I want to do something else afterwards. So here for now I want to skip this part inside of the if statement, and then I'm going to continue writing some other codes, because some other coder or sometime later somebody is going to develop this, or you're going to develop this sometime or someday later. But you want to make a mark here or say that if this condition happened, there must be an operation done here in between. So this is very handy using pass, because if you don't put it right here, you will face an indentation error, because if nothing is written here, the Python will translate this as an error, because here, for example, if you write a equals a plus b, then, and if you don't write anything afterwards, if with an indentation, as you can see here, we have an error, expected indented block. So it will think that this statement right here is meant to be inside of the if statement, but it does not have indentation, so it will throw an error. As a result, you need to put pass here in order to say the IDE or Python that we have something to do here, but for now we want to skip it, and outside of the if statement we want to do this kind of operation right here. So if I run this code, you will see that there is no error. As you can see, everything works well, and even if you print out A, you will see that it is 11.5 or no, 10.5. Yes, 10.5, because it's 5 plus 5.5. So that's it for if statement tutorials, and hope you've learned everything about it. It's nothing fancy about it, and there are tips and tricks that I've told you in this part.